All right, good afternoon, everyone. Would like to welcome you to the third annual Hall of Fame induction luncheon honoring the 2018 class of the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame. My name is Matt Melzak, your host today, and today we're going to honor 5 men who have positively impacted our hockey community and led the way in creating the rich hockey history we have and celebrate here in Toledo. Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame, of course, was formed to honor those individuals who have excelled as athletes, as coaches, and those individuals or staff members who have been fervent in supporting and helping to shape Toledo's hockey heritage. The nomination and selection of the candidates was determined by the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame committee, made up of former coaches, players, team historians, media, and of course the input from our great Toledo hockey fans during the voting phase. To date, we've inducted 10 individuals into the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame: Glenn Ramsey, Virgil Gladio, Ted Garvin, Rick Judson, and Kyle Rogers in the first class, 2016, followed by William Chick Chalmers, Greg Jablonski, Paul Tantardini, Dirk Graham, and Mark Deasley in last year's class. Kyle Rogers, Dirk Graham, as well as Bill Chalmers, the son of the late Chick Chalmers, are in attendance today. At this time, we would ask that they please stand up and be recognized. Thank you. To distinguish the unique history of Toledo, candidates are determined each year based on eras of Toledo hockey. 5 eras, of course, represented in this process. The Toledo Mercuries and the Toledo Buckeyes are a combined category. Same with the Toledo Blades and Toledo Hornets. Then you have the Toledo Gold Diggers, the Toledo Storm, and the Toledo Walleye. This year's class represents 2 of those eras, the Toledo Mercuries and the Toledo Gold Diggers. Today, we're excited to bring these individuals together to recognize their unique and iconic contributions to our game. At this time, I would like to welcome Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Toledo Walleye, Neil Newcomb, up to say a few words.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's luncheon and the third induction class for the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame. A special welcome to the Huntington Center for all of today's inductees, families, and friends of those being recognized during this afternoon's luncheon and also at tonight's Walleye game. Today's 5 inductees provide their very own uniqueness, style, and memories to many of you in attendance, as well as hockey fans across the region. One of the more amazing notes related to today's honorees: they all played a role in bringing 7 different Turner Cup championships to Toledo, from the Mercuries to the Gold Diggers. And another little side note, as I did some research, all 5 inductees are all Canadians. They all hail from Canada. And Matt had told me this afternoon, a few minutes ago, that the Canada team won the bronze medal, I think, today. So very good. But it's with great honor and pride that we have the opportunity today to acknowledge these inductees for their contributions to the history of Toledo hockey. With the number of special players, coaches, and others who have helped shape hockey in our community, the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame committee once again had its work cut out for them. Thank you again to all those committee members and also the Toledo hockey fans who voted during the process to help select these deserving individuals. A special thank you as well to Dan Savig. Dan, who you may have already seen his videos, or you're going to see him in a few minutes on the videos, definitely has a great appreciation of Toledo hockey history, and his knowledge is really unparalleled. Dan has been very, very generous in sharing his time and his passion for Toledo hockey and helping today's and previous classes of the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame. Thank you, Mr. Dan Savig. What's great about today is that we're honoring some of the greatest names in the history of Toledo hockey, but better yet, we realize that there are still many more to recognize in the future. For today, though, let's take time to honor and reflect on the careers of those who have helped play a major role in the history of hockey in the Glass City, and welcome into the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame 3 key members from Turner Cup championship teams of the Toledo Gold Diggers, one of the founding fathers of Toledo hockey, and a skilled defenseman who played an amazing 13 seasons in a Toledo uniform for the Mercuries, the Blades, and the Hornets. Congratulations to all 5 of today's inductees, and thank you to each and every one of them for their contributions and the roles they've played in shaping the history of hockey right here in Toledo. With that, I'll turn the mic back over to Matt Melzak, and we'll introduce our first inductee. Thank you so much.
All right, it's now time to recognize our first Hall of Fame inductee, Andy Mulligan. Considered, as Neil just mentioned, one of the founders of hockey in Toledo, the Winnipeg, Manitoba native played 1 season with Toledo's first semi-pro team, the Babcocks. He was the first head coach and longtime general manager of the Toledo Mercuries, building 3 International Hockey League Turner Cup championships, while serving as general manager of the Toledo Sports Arena. He became commissioner of the IHL in 1962, served in that role through 1967, and was instrumental in the creation of the Toledo Gold Diggers in 1974. At this time, I'd like to direct your attention over to the video screen for more on Andy Mulligan.
I think it's safe to say that if not for Andy Mulligan, the professional hockey would not have had the great start that it did here in Toledo. Andy was brought in by Virgil Gladio to be a player coach, a defenseman for the old Toledo Babcocks that played at the Berdan Avenue Ice Arena. And the team was so successful during the beginning of the war years that Virgil said, I think when the war ends, hockey could be very successful in a new, larger facility here in Toledo. So Virgil built the sports arena. He brought Andy in as a coach and general manager of the initial team, the inaugural team, the 1947-48 Toledo Mercuries. And Andy put together a championship team. He won a championship that very first year. They also won the U.S. Open Championship that year and then again in 1951. He served here as a coach for 4 years, and then at the end of that time, he became the general manager of the Mercuries throughout their existence. While he was doing that, he was also the general manager of the Toledo Sports Arena.
He was the manager of the arena, the booking agent, the promoter, the negotiator. His wife ran the box office, and the 2 of them lived in the arena in a small apartment above the lobby.
What Andy focused on, though, and his love was always the game of hockey. In the early 1960s, Andy was so well respected by the folks in the International Hockey League that he actually became the commissioner from 1962 through 1969. And he took it through a relatively difficult period. The IHL during that time period was struggling, as a lot of professional leagues were, but Andy kept that ship going in the right direction, and as a result, the IHL was much stronger when he stepped down as commissioner in 1969. The league so respected the work that he did that they created a new trophy to be given to the top executive in the International Hockey League annually. It was called the Andy Mulligan Trophy. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that if not for Andy Mulligan, it's very likely that in 1974 the Toledo Gold Diggers would not have existed. The Toledo Blades had come and gone. The Hornets had really struggled and moved to Lansing, Michigan. Andy was one of the people working behind the scenes to bring the investor group together to create what became the Toledo Gold Diggers, and then negotiated to help bring Ted Garvin here into Toledo. So Andy's business acumen that he accumulated through those years of the Mercuries and the years of the Blades and the years of running the sports arena really came in handy when it came 1974 and a time to put another hockey team together. He treated people really well, and I think that was one of the reasons why he was so successful as general manager of the sports arena and why he was so successful as commissioner of the International Hockey League. And I think that's a reason why a lot of the players wanted to come to Toledo to play for a coach and a general manager like Andy Mulligan. Andy Mulligan was a class act.
Accepting on his behalf, we would like to welcome his daughter, Barbara Howell. There you go, Barbara.
Well, I'm not like my dad. I'm a little short, so I have to be up a little higher. Can you all hear me? There's nothing worse than being at something and not being able to hear the speaker. And I don't have the voice of your wonderful master of ceremonies, but I welcome you all today, and I thank the committee and Dan Sabic for this wonderful event. Can you imagine how exciting and thrilling and humbling this is for me? My dad has been dead for 34 years. I can't imagine anybody even remembering me in 34 years, let alone with such an honor. So I am very pleased you're all here. I thank you for your following of this hockey in Toledo. I thank the committee for bringing this event together and working so hard on it. For Emily Crow, who has really helped a lot with the arrangements for my family and myself. And for all of the people involved in this, and especially for my family that has come to support me and my dad today. Isn't this wonderful? We have great-grandchildren, 2. We have great-grandchildren, one of which accompanied me here. And we have great-grandchildren, and then there's old Barb. And I love being here. I love being here for a couple reasons, but 3 of which I want to share with you today. This is such a great honor for hockey for my dad, but it also wouldn't happen if he wasn't the kind of man that he was. And of course, as a daughter, you know your dad is a dad. You don't think of him as what he does for a living. You just want him to be a dad. So that was what he was to me, a wonderful dad. He was also a very tough love kind of guy. And when he was commissioner of the Hockey League, and even in his playing and his life, he had to have a lot of tough love. And I think that was very, very important to why he's being remembered today. Some of you might not know my dad's mother died when he was only 10. And that left 5 other siblings plus himself. So my grandfather bought a store because he thought that way he could always feed this family of 6. But really and truly, grocery business does not make much money. So my dad, being the oldest, was often called upon to kind of try to help out with the finances. So my dad loved playing hockey. In Canada, the firemen would always flood the rinks on any bare corner that wasn't, was prairie or whatever it was. So my dad played hockey from the time he was 5. He got his skates on for the first time when he was 5, but he loved the game. But he went to the University of Manitoba because his dad wanted him to be a doctor. And after 2.5 years of that, he was drafted by Regina to play with them, and he couldn't give that up because he could also help finance the family better that way, and also he loved the game of hockey. So he went to Regina, and the first game he played in, and this shows how much he was a positive thinker, the coach said to him, "Now, Andy, you have to play right wing." My dad was left wing. My dad was a right wing defenseman. So that was a little tricky because he'd never really played that position too much. So he did that, and he scored a goal right away. And my dad, whatever he would talk about his hockey career, he would talk about the great people he played with. He never complained about any positions or any amount of money that he made or anything like that. He just always was a positive thinker. And I really feel today that is very important. And this morning, Alicia, my granddaughter, his great-granddaughter, and I were talking about some of the things about Dad. And he had to move a lot to play hockey. He moved actually 14 different times to play hockey, 14 different teams, which was quite a bit. Well, actually, some of them were repeats, like St. Paul and Minneapolis. But he also played in 12 different teams, and he played in 6 leagues. And I don't know exactly what happens in leagues, but I know when my dad was the commissioner of the International League, he had to make a lot of tough decisions. And one of them was so tough that actually Windsor left that league at that time because they didn't like my dad's decision. But sometimes you have to do that for the greater, for the league to really be able to sustain itself. Now today, to show his love of hockey, I'll conclude with this. When he played in Kansas City, which was in 1939, he played for $1,300 for the season. And he had a friend in Minneapolis that he played with called Moose Coheen. He was one of the greatest American hockey players of all time, I guess. He also was in both the Hockey Hall of Fame for America and the Hockey Hall of Fame for Canada. And Moose was drafted by the Boston Bruins, and he asked them for a contract of $30,000 for 3 years. And Boston Bruins wouldn't honor the contract. So you can see how far hockey has come today and how much the players make and how different it all is. But my dad, I think it's so ironic, the team ended up in my dad's life to be called the Gold Diggers when he was certainly not a gold digger anyway. So I thank this committee, thank Mr. Havoc, thank all of you for honoring my dad for hockey and inadvertently honoring him for his tough love, his integrity, and for his love of the game. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. And now we would like to recognize our second Hall of Fame inductee, Bill Red Mitchell. The defenseman from Port Dalhousie, Ontario, played 13 seasons in Toledo with the Mercuries, the Blades, and the Hornets. Scored a total of 110 goals, 249 assists in a Toledo uniform. Mitchell also served as a head coach of the Toledo Blades in 1969 and 1970, and also the Toledo Hornets the very next year, 1970 and 71. Please direct your attention now over to the screen for a look at Bill Mitchell's time in Toledo.
Billy Red Mitchell's an amazing story. Here's a gentleman who played for 13 seasons here. His career spanned the Toledo Mercuries, the Toledo Blades, and the Toledo Hornets. He was also a very smart hockey person. He ended up coaching the Toledo Blades from 1969 through 1970 and is the coach of the Toledo Hornets from 1970 through 71. And what's interesting, he played his last game as a pro hockey player at the age of 41 for the Toledo Hornets in 1970-71 while he was the coach of the team that very same year.
Well, Bill was a great skater, and he was a defenseman by trade, but he wasn't a hitter or a rough guy. He was skilled.
He was a above average defenseman, and he could play forward if he had to, and he loved to carry the puck out of his own zone. He would rather do that than pass it, and he did a good job of it.
Good passer. He was more of a playmaker than for a defenseman than a goal scorer.
Bill Mitchell was an offensive defenseman in an era where most of the defensemen were bangers and crashers and things like that. He was very smooth. He's the type of player that you could put on the ice today because he skated so well and was so smart and saw the ice so well that he was able to really elevate his game during that era.
Well, he never got out of position. He's always in the right spot at the right time.
He made no mistakes. He had a couple moves in his own end and the ability to get the puck out, which goalkeepers like to see.
He was good at everything. He was the above average player, yeah. And I know one time we had a afternoon game, and then he went to play in Detroit in the evening with the Red Wings.
Here's a guy who ended up playing one game in the National Hockey League. He played one single solitary game for the Detroit Red Wings in 1963-64. He did it during the six-team NHL. He really was amazing. And if you can make the National Hockey League and play even one game during the original six era, you were one heck of a hockey player.
I never seen him angry. He was always had a smile on his face and like to have a few Cokes after the practices and stuff like the rest of us. He was a great teammate. You can't ask for anything better than that, yeah.
When he retired to Millbury, Ohio. He ended up coaching in the Toledo hockey community for many, many years afterward in local kids programs.
He's accepting on his behalf. We'd like to welcome up his son, Jim Mitchell.
afternoon, everyone. It's quite a gathering here, and I'm at a loss for words, but I'm going to set the record straight from some of the stuff that was mentioned up there. The night being 41 and a coach and player was by accident because they were playing so terrible. He says, I'll show these guys, I'll put on this stuff and go out and show them how the game's done. That's how he established that phenomenal feat. And the one game that he played with the Red Wings, he was skating for the Windsor Bulldogs at the time. They had a game earlier that day. Windsor had afternoon, the 11 noon games. But they got a call. The Red Wings called and said, you have somebody available. Marcel Provenot is injured, and we're playing the Montreal Canadiens tonight now. Could you spare somebody? And I said, well, sure. And they asked Dad, and he goes, why, most certainly. He played 2 games in one day, and he likes to make his claim to fame that he has one of the few rookies in the NHL that ever played in the NHL that never lost a game. Now, knowing my father, as a son, I went along to so many occasions, and hockey was such a large part of his life. He was born an orphaned child of Scottish parents in Port Dalhousie and was raised by his aunt. And the day he turned 16 years old, the owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, George Ballard, come knocking on the door right at the house and offered him $500 to sign up with him. And it's like, well, of course, $500 back then, that was about a year's salary. And so away he went and thought he was off to the big leagues. And here he was in the groups of Tim Horton and Georgie Armstrong and, the gathering like that. And after a few years playing in the Marlies with him, he asked him for a release. He could see the handwriting on the wall that he wasn't going to crack this lineup. And so he traveled around in southern Ontario there, the hockey mecca of Canada. And he was on a team, I'm not sure who it was, with Stratford or Strathroy or somebody. They come down to play the Toledo Mercuries in an exhibition game. And that's quite a road trip back in them days, no highways, anything like that. And Andy Mulligan took a liking to him and kept contacting him, wanting him to come down and play for Toledo. And Dad kept scratching around up in there and trying to eke out a living. And he could see that, he's going to have to move up a little scale in this hockey business if he's going to raise a family, because my sister's 6 years older than I, so he came on down to Toledo, and Andy set him up in a tool and die trade, made sure all the dots, and the T's were crossed and everything was taken care of. And eventually my mother came down, and he liked to say that I was conceived in Canada, but I was the firstborn in the United States of the Mitchell clan. So that's how it all came to be, and I got to watch all this, the glory days of the hockey in this town. It's quite, it's hard to explain sometimes. The sports arena was so alive with so many different events, and we attended most everything. You've seen a picture of Elvis Presley with Andy, and just all the things that went on around this community. And Dad liked to spread all his love of the sport of hockey. He was always involved with the minor league programs, and he would even coach the University of Toledo when they just, before Bowling Green went to the NCAA, to win the national championship 10 years later. And they beat Bowling Green that year, and he was pleading with Frank Lauterborough, please go with them, join that organization. And it just turned out the way it is. And so he just gave everything to the sport. He did anything he went into, sailing, rowing, his work, the house. He was a hero. He was more than a hero. He's my best friend. And to be here today and accept this award is such a thrill. I'm honored, and I know he would be too. So I hope the rest of you enjoy the rest of the festivities today, because I'm going to sit down and relax and soak it in myself. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jim. All right, next we would like to recognize Hall of Fame inductee Bill Inglis. The Ottawa, Ontario native guided the Gold Diggers over the course of 4 seasons as a head coach from 1980 through 1984. That included back-to-back International Hockey League Turner Cup championships in 1982 and 83, and also a trip to the finals the very next year in 1984. Played in 36 career National Hockey League games and was a Buffalo Sabres head coach during the 1978-79 season. Direct your attention over to the video screen right now for more on Bill Inglis.
In 1980-81, when the Gold Diggers got off to a horrible start, management decided to make a coaching change. They talked to Jack Riley, who was the commissioner of the International Hockey League at the time, and said, "We want to make a change. Who should we look at?" Jack Riley said, "You need to go to Rochester to talk to Bill Inglis." They brought Billy in. Billy immediately inherited in 1980-81 a horrible hockey team, but he made some changes that made the difference, that really helped form the nucleus for what was to come. He then put on the ice one of the greatest teams to ever perform in the city of Toledo.
He could recognize line combinations and put people together. Nobody could have dreamt that he could put myself along with Claude Noel and Dirk Graham to play on a line. I don't know if it was based on probably hockey skill, probably their personalities, but it just seemed that when he put people together, it just meshed. He knew how to do that.
Inglis, his teams were built finesse and strength, and he didn't want to wake up the sleeping dog with Billy's teams.
Oh, we were tough. We were tough and physical. I mean, if you take a look at the guys that we had, if you just start with Paul Tannerdini, you had Mike Greeter, you had Keith Hansen, you had Mike Seide, you had Steve Martinson. I fought. Dirk would fight. I mean, we had goal scorers, but we also had fighters. And what Bill always said is, we're going to go into town, we're going to beat you up, we're going to outscore you, take your 2 points, and we're going to leave your rink and leave everybody quiet.
The 1981-82 Gold Diggers were phenomenal. They win the Turner Cup. They come back the very next season in 1982-83. They win the Turner Cup again.
It was a remarkable rise from total mediocrity to a championship team that was almost unstoppable. This wasn't even close at times. I know the teams in the 70s, were teams that kind of, in the standings weren't near the top, but had great playoff runs. The back-to-back teams in 81, 82, and 82, 83, domination, regular season, domination, playoffs.
In 1983-84, he doesn't quite have the talent that he had the years before that. He then puts together a team that is so good, they unexpectedly make it all the way, only to lose in the Turner Cup finals. At the end of that 83-84 season, the Gold Diggers go out of business, and Bill Inglis is hired away to become coach and general manager of the Kalamazoo Wings in the International Hockey League.
Coaching in the minors, I think, is more difficult than coaching in an NHL, because in the minors, your success is usually your failure. And what I mean by that is that because you're successful, your team is doing well, your players are going to get called up. And then you have to adapt your coaching style to whatever talent that you have at that time.
I think Billy let the guys play the game. And he was a great tactician, and the guys liked him, and that was a big thing. You like your coach, it's pretty important, and he commanded a lot of respect from the players. He really did. He was a good coach.
Bill Inglis. He could not be with us today, so accepting on his behalf, please welcome his son, Cody Inglis.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate and I'm honored to be here to represent my family and my father. He sends his apologies that he can't be here. In typical Bill Inglis fashion, he is putting others before himself. and tending to some family challenges and some illness, and he really wishes he could be here. But I had a chance to talk with him at length about this day, and I know he and my mom would like nothing better than to be here. But I want to send a couple of thoughts from my perspective as a 5th, 6th, and 7th grader growing up and watching the Gold Diggers, as well as my father, who I absolutely got to coach a great team. And the 3.5 years we spent here in Toledo was nothing but great memories for our family. And I hope to share some of that with you. First of all, it's wonderful for me, for my family, my wife Carrie and our boys, Reed, Nolan, and Ty, to be here to hear about their papa. And that's pretty cool. So thank you for being here. As I look back at this and the way the Toledo Gold Diggers experience unfolded, some of the vivid memories for me as a child growing up were in the sports arena. You watched some of the pictures there. I was biased because I thought every arena in hockey had stairs that led up through the crowd, as well as had just a chain behind the fence or behind the bench where literally fans could reach over and touch you. Only later when I went to other rinks that I realized the sports arena was made unlike any other rink in the entire world. And they would never make a rink like that in today's NHL or minor league hockey. It was a great place for me as a kid growing up because my brother and I, before the games, in between intermissions, as well as after the game, got to hang out underneath the alcoves of the sports arena playing knee hockey, where my mom was mortified that we ruined several pairs of pants, but thoroughly enjoyed it. I also have vivid memories of carrying the Turner Cup in a convertible across the Maumee River Bridge, and with my brother, who was in 5th grade at the time, and literally my mom went out and bought us new Izod polo shirts, yellow, Gold Digger yellow, to go across the bridge and carry the Turner Cup in the victory parade. One of those vivid memories that never leave your mind. In addition, I literally remember the Gold Diggers winning the '83 Turner Cup and listening to the melodic dulcet tones of Mike Miller on the radio, long before the days of internet or live streaming, in my kitchen with my mom and my brother screaming like crazy when they won the Turner Cup on the radio. And it was such a great feeling to live vicariously through your father. A couple of memories now that my dad, in transitioning to my father, as Dan said on the video, in the middle of the 1980-81 season, my dad was out of work. He had coached the Sabres and had done a pretty good job, and they said, you're a pretty good coach, but we're going to replace you with this guy named Scotty Bowman. They then said, we'll send you down to Rochester for the AHL, and they said, that year didn't go very well, so we're going to fire you, but we're going to replace you with Mike Keenan. So he was out of work, and Toledo, I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. And Toledo happened to the Inglis family for a positive reason, because Toledo was kind of a rebirth for my dad professionally, as well as for us as a family, and really nothing but great memories. Some of those memories that my dad shared with me as he was hired in the Rochester airport by then Toledo GM Jerry Francis and Jim Welsh as well. He came in the second half of that year and said, what did I get myself into? The 81-82 season, the ownership changed to Bill Began and Virgil Gladio. He started training camp that year with 4 players. He told those 4 players to run their own training camp, while he went to, over the course of the next 5 days, 3 different NHL training camps to get different players to actually have a team. He returned with 4 or 5 players from each of those camps. They were in great shape, and that was his team. He was also able to get Tony Porosky as his assistant coach. Tony was a great help, as he knew the IHL from previous years of playing goaltender for Toledo. He knew the players in the league, and he helped on the ice with practices and during games. The rest of this season was a dream. Everything couldn't have gone better. These players played for one another. Towards the end of the last game in the Turner Cup Finals, I put the original 4 players on the ice. The referee came over and said, Bill, you only have 4 players. He said, my team's on the ice. And those 4 players were the 4 players that were in the training camp at the start of the year. The memories of this year include the limited team a limited training camp roster, but there was also the fact, and this was a common theme that my dad said, the Gold Diggers Booster Club were so huge in their support, in their playing in support of the players. They helped in every way possible without interfering with the players' on-ice jobs. It was truly a Cinderella season for the Gold Diggers, one in which he will never forget. During the 82-83 season, it started with more than 4 players. And although lots of hard work and everyone had established a positive work environment, it was a true team culture that had been established. Again, one of the other things that he said, and I have vivid memories of a huge banner that must have taken hours. The Milwaukee Admirals at the time had a goalie named Rick Sirois. There was a banner at the end of the sports arena that said, "We're in awe of Rick Sirois, but we just as sooner have our Mooner," who was Lauren Mollican, a great goaltender for the Gold Diggers. Once again, that year was magical. It started with the outstanding, Gold Diggers boosters. But the team and the players on those teams are so well documented, and what they did for one another and me won't be forgotten. One of the highlights of that year was GD the Gorilla. Thanks to the voice and PR director, Mike Miller, assistant coach Tony Porosky, and GM part owner Bill Began. I must admit I was there too, but they came up with the idea of GD. GD was our mascot in a gorilla suit who was situated on a beam and platform that was above the visitors' bench. Bill Began purchased a gong for $300. GD was instructed to beat the gong every time the Gold Diggers scored a goal. I believe we scored around 300 plus goals that year. That's a lot of gongs. During the Turner Cup Finals that season, we played the Milwaukee Admirals, and the final score of one of the games was 16-4. That means the gong went off 136 times above the Admirals' bench. The next night after that 16-4 game, the game was played in Milwaukee and the Gold Diggers won another Turner Cup. My dad, after the game, went to Phil Whitliff, the coach and GM of the Milwaukee Admirals, and apologized not for beating them, but for the gong going off over their head for 136 times. In the 1983-84 season, the third season was totally different than the previous two. There were lots of new faces on the team. All the opposing teams played us extremely hard. We were the 2-time defending champs. We made the Cup Finals with one of the hardest, dedicated group of players I've ever coached. Though there was not to be a three-peat, and not winning was a great disappointment, but being associated with everyone connected with our team was anything but. They were all champions. My dad closes with the following thank yous. I'm truly humbled by my induction into the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame. There are numerous people who made this possible, and today I share this with you. With thanks to the Walleye Hockey Club, the Gold Diggers Booster Club, the Toledo Blade, especially Mike Good and John Guger. A very special thanks to longtime Toledo hockey booster and my friend Dan Savick for his outstanding contribution to the Gold Diggers during my tenure. I would also like to say a special thanks to Barb Pomerantz, M. Brady, Marv Brink, Don King, Jeff Shaban, my all-time favorite trainer, Chuck Hart, root beer, Dr. Steve Abusta, Mike Brazil, Vince King, Gary Wise, the Toledo Hockey Club ownership, Mike Miller, the voice, Tony Porosky, my best assistant coach ever. And last but not least, a big thanks to my wife of 51 years, Jairus, and my exceptional sons, Cody and Chet, for being with and beside me during the great Toledo time we had together. We have wonderful memories of special people and new friendships made then that have lasted throughout the years. Toledo will always be in our hearts. I am deeply moved to receive this recognition, and thank you for this honor. Thank you very much.
All right, Cody, thank you. Well, our fourth Hall of Fame inductee, another Toledo Gold Digger, his name is Jim McCabe. The center from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, played 6 seasons here in Toledo from 1974 through 1979, helping the Gold Diggers win Turner Cups in 1975 and 1978. The Tin Man, as he was known, a California Golden Seals professional, didn't want to forget the golden part. Golden Seals professional, second on the all-time Gold Diggers scoring list with 169 goals, 236 assists in 429 regular season games. Added another 26 goals and 36 assists in the Turner Cup playoffs while playing for Toledo. He is also a member of our Hockey Hall of Fame committee. Please direct your attention right now over to the screen for a closer look at the great career of Jim McCabe.
Jim McCabe came to the expansion Toledo Gold Diggers in 1974-75 as a draft pick of the California Golden Seals. He played here for 6 seasons. He is the second all-time leading scorer in Toledo Gold Digger history. He had 169 goals, 236 assists, 405 points. He averaged nearly a point a game in his 429 games played in the Gold Digger green and gold.
He was like a swan out there. The way he would stick handle, he'd give you the puck, he'd take it away from you.
He made the guys he played with better because the way he'd handle the puck, he'd never give it to you in a bad spot, always on, the puck was where you could shoot it, it wasn't behind you.
He slowed the game down to a tempo that fit his style of play. Wayne Gretzky used to do the same thing when he played in the National Hockey League. Wayne Gretzky wasn't the greatest skater, but what he did do is he was able to see the ice and to foresee what was going to happen.
So the puck followed him around the ice. I don't know if you people have heard that, but, Jimmy always had the puck, or he knew where it was going before it got there.
Jimmy was that kind of a player. He knew where a player should be or would try to get the puck into that spot for the player to pick it up.
That's probably what I did best, was I could see the guy that would have the half step where I could get the puck to my line mate or defenseman in a good position strategically where he would have a good chance to score goals.
Paul Tannerdini nicknamed him the Tin Man. Paul was the character on the team. He would nickname everybody.
Jimmy looked like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. He was tall and slender and stoic. I don't call him Jim. I know him as the Tin Man. If somebody calls, did you hear from the Tin Man? It's not, did you hear from Jim McCabe? It's Tin Man. And it's stuck for 40-some years.
But you know what? It's a pretty good nickname compared to what some of the other guys got. It could have been a lot worse.
Year after year after year, the Tin Man was the model of consistency for the Toledo Gold Diggers. Jim McCabe is the second leading scorer in Toledo Gold Digger history. He scored no less than 20 goals and as many as 40 goals in each of his 6 years in Toledo in the IHL. In fact, the 20-goal season was only because he was injured. He would have had many more than that during that time period.
A lot of times it's not how hard you shoot it, it's where you shoot it. And Tin Man could find the holes. He'd have the same stick for 3 months, Jimmy wasn't going to cost the team a lot of money, but he'd have it all taped up, and we'd joke about it. How long's that one been, Jimmy? He said it's 6 weeks. Oh, it's just breaking in, Doug.
If you talk to Ted Garvin, the coach of the Toledo Gold Diggers, he was so high on Jim McCabe, he felt like he was somebody who belonged at a much higher level, but he never got that opportunity.
Jim is being inducted into the Hall of Fame as a member of the Toledo Gold Diggers. Please welcome up to the podium right now, Mr. Jim McCabe.
Oh, God. I'll break the mic to start here. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to start. I'm going to share what was the most disappointing moment of my hockey life. I think it might surprise you. But first, I want to say thanks to the committee for putting their energy and time into the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame. Thanks to Joe Napoli and the Toledo Walleye for promoting and supporting the venture. Congrats to fellow inductees. A great class. I'm very proud to be put in with these guys. At my table,
You did break the mic.
I didn't. At my table, I want to say thanks to Dr. Dory Schmidt, my girlfriend. She's trying to raise my game. I know what a lot of you are thinking. You only had one way to go, Tin Man. Thanks, hon. I love you. And happy birthday. It's her birthday today as well. So. My twin brother is down from Manitoulin Island, John, at the table. I'm very honored. because it takes a lot to get him off Manitoulin Island. So I'm glad he could make it. Thanks, John. My beautiful daughter is Katie is here from the Lansing area. She's the mother of my two very treasured granddaughters, and thanks for being here, Katie. My son Jay is with his beautiful wife, Sophia. Beautiful new bride, Sophia. Thank you very much for being here as well. Joe and Ann Reynolds at my table, good friends of Dory and I. And I want to say thank you for the support from Betty Jo, who is my wife. She passed away in 2013. Thank you for the support that she extended to me as well. I want to say thanks to a special family in my life, the Schrader family, especially John and Jim Schrader from Schrader Tire and Oil. They've let me be part of a winning team. I've been working with them for 28 years in the city of Toledo, so thanks to them as well. One last thanks, and I'll get back to the program here. I want to thank my mom and dad for all the sacrifice that they made so we could do our sports and other activities in Sault Ste. Marie. So thanks to my mom and dad. It was the most disappointing moment of my hockey life. Kingston, Ontario, the fall of 1974, the end of training camp. Bill McCreary, general manager of the California Golden Seals, told me, "You're going to Toledo." Jim McCabe, "You're going to Toledo." What I knew about Toledo at that time was what I had heard at camp from the other players. I was going to play for a tyrant as coach and GM. I was going to play in a dilapidated building that had a very small ice rink. The fans were considered malcontent and dangerous to the opposing teams. I was going to play with a bunch of goons. And I was going to a city that I knew nothing about. For a kid 20 years old from Sault Ste. Marie, it was less than an ideal situation, I thought. I was very disappointed. And so here we are, February 24th, 2018. In this upscale facility, the Huntington Center in Toledo, Ohio. Today, I'm sharing my proudest moment with everyone here and my greatest accomplishment as a hockey player. It is very ironic to me that the same people that originally made me regret being sent to Toledo are the guys that played a large role in my success. Turns out, I came to love and respect that tyrant GM and coach, Ted Garvin. He made us all better people, and he made us all winners. I came to love the sports arena. It had an atmosphere. It gave us a one-goal advantage every game. We felt like we started every game with a one-goal advantage because of the building and the fans. I came to love those goons. Right, Doug? They became very good friends and good hockey players, and they really were. And I told this to Doug one time, and he disagreed with me. They really were the biggest reason that we won our cups. There's no doubt about it. We were tough. Bill Inglis' teams were finesse and tough, very tough. Garvin's teams were tough and tough. I mean, that's how we won our games. So thanks to those guys. Most definitely, I came to love the passion that came with the fans of Toledo who loved the game of hockey and appreciate the intensity and toughness from the players who made our hockey, and they also made our hockey family complete. We are family. Look around this room. It really feels like a family. I'm very thankful that you, the fans, and the Hall of Fame committee have included me with this very elite group of contributors to our legacy as a great hockey city. Most of all, I owe any personal success that I've had to the coaches and teammates that I got to play with, learn from, and win with. I'm going to mention a few guys that I played with and I got close to. I had a list of about 40 guys, and I still wanted to add a few more, so I'm not going to put you through that, but I want to say that everybody that I got to play with really had an influence on me in a very positive way. I'm going to mention 6 or 7 guys here that I got particularly close to. I owe very special thanks to Ted Garvin, Paul Tantardini, Ted Tucker. He was a judge in the dressing room. So he dished out fines in the dressing room and on the bus. The most common violation was flushing the toilet in the dressing room at the sports arena. It was put in the felony category because anyone in the shower would get a jolt of steaming hot water when the toilet was flushed while they were showering. That's a fine, Tucker would say. And a great friend, Doug Mohood, one of the funniest guys. If you get to spend any time around Doug, he's got a one-liner for a million situations, and he's got some spare ones as well. So, great guy. Yeah, I want to mention Ian McPhee, an interesting character. He typified what made the Gold Diggers tick. He was tough. He won battles all over the ice and got the puck to guys like Mo Brunel and Michel Orindo. Tony Porosky, a great friend. He made me laugh. He had his own angle on humor. Great guy, great teammate. Mike Eruzione, who played here before he scored what may be the biggest goal in hockey history. He's a true friend as well. I have a couple memories I want to share with you during our playing days. A couple guys in here should remember this. I want to share with you this, my memory of the sea of humanity in the sports arena parking lot in 1975 when we got back from Saginaw with the Turner Cup. That was the night Titke's burnt down. There were 10,000 celebrating Gold Digger fans in that parking lot. My personal memory is a bus inching into the parking lot, fans jumping on top of our bus. We could feel the bus swaying back and forth from the weight. Some champagne spilled out of the Turner Cup, and that was a fine, according to Tucker. So, another vivid memory that I want to share is a 3-round slugfest fight between Paul Tantardini and Ian McPhee. That was at one of our practices at Tam O'Shannon. Of course, not only were they teammates, they were line mates, and I was their centerman. The fight started because Ian didn't like what was going on in practice and in the games, and he decided to start shooting pucks high at our goaltenders. Tanner took him to task, and one of the best fights I've ever witnessed took place in front of an empty practice arena with only their teammates watching. At the end of the fight, Tanner pulled off his jersey and threw it, his gold jersey. And he said, "I'm not playing with that bleepity bleep." So I had a new left winger for the rest of practice, and that was the last practice that Ted Garvin missed that year. If you would allow me, I have one more guy I want to mention here, and I want to pay some gratitude to. This guy had the largest influence on my young hockey life. His name was Mike Zook. He was a mailman in the west end of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, where we grew up. Mike always had the first natural outdoor ice in the Sault that was ready to skate on early every winter. He had rink boards and lights and chicken wire that went high behind the nets. My brother John and I would walk 2 miles in sub-zero weather many times to play on Mike Zook's ice. Really high level, 3-on-3 with goaltenders and great competition. We played with an air-filled ball. Mike always said if you can stick handle a ball and control it and shoot it, a puck is very easy to handle comparatively. Every guy that played on that ice came away with an ability to handle the puck that was special. But what Mike did for all of us was he taught us the respect and passion that he had for the game. He emphasized team play and unique passing plays right out of his hockey Bible, which was Lloyd Percival's hockey handbook. He loved to see us learn plays, practice them, and execute them in games. His love for playing the game and his passion and childlike enthusiasm was totally infectious. We loved Mike and never ever wanted to let him down. He coached us for 4 years through Bantam and Midget. We played the Toronto Young Nats in our last game for the All-Ontario Midget Championship and lost a close game in front of a sold-out Sioux Memorial Gardens crowd. I've tried to emulate Mike in the way I played the game and later in the way I coached and taught life lessons. I want to say thanks to Mike Zook and to all my teammates, all my coaches, trainers, bus drivers, media people, my family, but most of all, I want to express gratefulness to the passionate, loyal, dedicated fans who really lived and died with our successes and failures. We really are family. I'm very proud and humbled, and I get emotional when I think of being called a Toledo Hockey Hall of Famer. Thanks to all of you. I look forward to sharing the rest of this day of celebration with you. Have a great time.
Thank you, Jim. Well, our final Hall of Fame inductee is Dave Falkenberg. Converted defenseman from Red Deer, Alberta, racked up more points in a Gold Diggers jersey than any other player. 177 goals, 261 assists, an astounding 438 points. 4 times in his career, he played 82 games in a season for the Gold Diggers. Philadelphia Flyers professional, played 7 seasons in Toledo, and of course helped the Gold Diggers win back-to-back International Hockey League Turner Cups in 1982 and 1983. For more on Dave Falkenberg, let's turn our attention over to the screen.
Dave Falkenberg is really an amazing story. Here's a gentleman who came to Toledo on a Philadelphia Flyers contract during the 1979-80 season, but he ended up playing here through the 1985-86 season, even after his contract with the Philadelphia Flyers expired. Dave Falkenberg's the all-time leading scorer in Toledo Gold Digger history. He had 438 points, which were made up of 177 goals and 261 assists. Those 438 points came in 548 games with the Toledo Gold Diggers.
Man, could he skate. I remember watching him the first time I did a game on the radio. He had such a great stride, so quick, so agile. You know, he was playing defense, and I kept telling everybody he should be a forward because, holy, he could cut to the net, had a great shot, he was big, he was tough.
In the 1980-81 season, Bill Inglis, who came in midway through that year as the Gold Diggers coach, recognized that in Dave Falkenberg, he had somebody who could really, really skate. And he moved Dave up to forward.
He ended up playing a very significant role on a highly productive couple of lines there, back-to-back seasons. He played with Claude Noel and Dirk Graham. He won the battles in the offensive corner the same way he won the battles in the defensive corner in his own zone. He went into the corners and he got the puck. And he was smart too, very smart. He knew get the puck to Dirk or Claude and go to the net, because if Dirk didn't put it in the net, there would be a rebound or some kind of carom that he could handle and maybe get a chance at putting it in.
There's a reason why Dirk Graham and Claude Noel had career years here in Toledo. Dave Falkenberg was a big reason for that. He was such a good hockey player.
I didn't really develop a goal-scoring thing till I was probably 23, till I started playing, with Dirk and Claude. I think the most goals I ever had was maybe 11 or 12. The net sometimes felt like it was a lot bigger, and wherever I shot it, it was going in.
Dave Falkenberg scored 51 goals that year. A defenseman moved to forward, scores 51 goals. Dave stayed at forward the rest of his career.
We won 2 championships in 81-82 and 82-83, and got beat by Flint in 84. But hey, we made it 3 years in a row, so it was fun.
Dave Falkenberg would play injured on a regular basis. This guy just didn't miss games. You'd have to almost break his leg to get him out of the lineup.
I never wanted to be a captain, though. Never wanted to be an assistant. I just wanted to lead by example. I never missed a practice in 5 years. Never missed a game in 5 years until my daughter was born. So she wrecked my streak of 500 some plus games, but I always kid her about that, you broke the streak, you know that, but I love you.
He was a good hockey player. He could shoot a puck, he could skate, he was tough. He had everything you needed to be a hockey player back then.
Dave Falkenberg, two-time Turner Cup championship in Toledo, all-time leading scorer in Toledo Gold Digger history, began his career in 1979, finished it here in the Glass City in 1986.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome up to the podium right now Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame member now, Mr. Dave Falkenberg.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be short and sweet. It's been a long afternoon. I'm so happy you're all here. I'd like to first say hi to my favorite Easterner, Doug Mahood. Thanks for coming, Hoodie. You said last year. Hitman Horvath, I haven't seen you in a long time. Ray, First Family of the East Side, St. John's, good to see you. The Falkenberg Posse, there they are, Section 10, there they are. Yeah. Toledo Sports Arena, Scotty Housen named it Leopold Corner down there. He said, hey, isn't there somebody fighting down there in Leopold Corner, Falky? So it's a privilege to be here today. A lot of people to thank. Carol. My wife, Carol, who I met here in Toledo, and the first time we went out, I said, why don't you come see a game? She said, well, when's the tip-off? So, but she helped me through a lot because when before Billy came, it was a struggle playing, and she helped me overcome that, saying I was a better player. So thank you, Carol. I love you. Thanks for the help. It's really funny. I first came to Toledo, and I stayed on the Commodore Perry, which is across the street. So it's pretty ironic that today, when I go on the Hall of Fame at Toledo, I'm right across the street from the Commodore Perry. It's kind of ironic. I mean, had the same thing as Jim did when somebody said, well, we're going to send you to Toledo. I was like, okay, where's Toledo? Well, the guy said it's somewhere between Cleveland and Detroit. I said, okay. So it's been a long ride. It's been a good ride. We had some good teams. Bill Inglis, of course, coming here. I have nothing but the man basically saved my career, moved me forward. If the guys really know how Billy would come and talk to you and go, hey, I want you to do something for me. I want you to go play forward a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of games. You go play with Dirk and Claude and see how it goes. But I just want you to go in and dig the puck out of the corners and get the puck up to Claude. Don't you carry the puck up. Give it to Claude. Let him carry it up. He'll give it to Dirk. You go to the net. If Dirk doesn't put the puck in the net, then it's going to be laying right there. And sure enough, probably half a dozen times it was laying right there. So Billy was like that. So, I mean, it was for the team, and I don't know, it kind of like a whirlwind, but you look back at it. We were talking with Dirk and BJ last night, and it's kind of like you're in a time warp, and now you're back in 81, 82, 82, 83, and everything is like it was 30 years ago. So wow, this has been a great day. I'm glad to see my little streak breaker Katie here. I had played 5 years. I didn't miss a practice, didn't miss a game. My wife was going to have a baby. We were hoping that'd be during the week when we didn't have any games, and then it got closer to, okay, they're getting close, and here we go. But then Valentine's Day, and we had a game in Milwaukee that night. So sure enough, my daughter was born on Valentine's Day, and streak was broken, but I love you. And now I have to say thank you to I have my son-in-law, Jeff, and now I have 3 beautiful grandchildren who will grow up to be Toronto Maple Leaf fans. Hoodie. So I'm working on that right now. But as I look at this city of Toledo, you look at how many guys who played here are still here, still a part of the community, still living in the community. That says something for this city. I mean, if you look, I look at all the guys that I know here. I mean, all of us You know, we all came from Canada, we all came from here, but what made us stay in this city? It was the people, it was you, it was the fans, it was playing here. If you ask anybody who's played here in Toledo, whether they played in the National Hockey League, American League, or wherever they played, they said, when was your best time you ever had playing hockey? And they will tell you, Toledo. I had the best time in Toledo. And now you have this palatial palace, you have a great organization. You know, if we were all bitter hockey players, we'd say, why didn't we have something like this when we played? But I look at it this way. You have a beautiful palace. You have little kids coming to hockey games now. Your future is set. The only thing that these guys need to do now is win a championship. And the way that they're looking, I think they're very close to winning it. And if they win the championship here in Toledo, Toledo people will never forget you. They will never forget you. So, I know we've been sitting here, it's getting hot, kind of hot in here. I know you people are hot. Just the last couple of guys, Bill Inglis, Claude Noel, and Dirk Graham. You made me a 51 goal scorer. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave. One big round of applause once again for all of our inductees today. The 2018 class of the Toledo Hockey Hall of Fame.